Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the Accelerated Training in Manufacturing Big Picture. If you have not had the opportunity to answer the poll questions, please take a moment to do that right now. And we will be closing those out and moving on into the presentation. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the chat pod so that we can ask our presenters about this during the course of the presentation or at the end of the presentation. And the handout is available in the file pod down at the bottom left of your screen. We're going to hide the poll questions now that are on the screen right now. So today our presentation is going to be on the big picture, but just to give you a little bit of visual presentation here, we're going to show you the website. So this is ilworknetmanufacturing.com. This is the website that we are going to be using for this process in this program, and it is available live and going strong right now. So we'll be pointing out a couple of things on this website a little bit later in the presentation, but I just wanted to show you right now that you can access the website and you can access the application on the website right here where it says apply for ATIM. So we're going to move this out of the screen and get started with our presentation. So today is our big picture, and today we have on the call Jim Nelson, who is with the Illinois Manufacturers Association, and we have Michael Baker from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, who is with the Department of Employment and Training. So Jim, if you want to say hello real quick.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
And Mike?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
And also on the call today, we have myself, Dee Reinhardt, Natasha Telger, Chelsea Jones, and Lacey Pollock, who are all with Illinois WorkNet. And just to let you all know, if it were not for Natasha, Chelsea, and Lacey, a lot of these webinars just would not happen. So I really want to thank them for all of the hard work that they do every day helping Illinois WorkNet be successful. So our topics today are the challenge and the goal. We're going to talk about the new model approach. We're also going to talk about the ATIM occupations, what we can do to help with the success of the program, the big picture regional activities and partner roles, and the online tools that are going to be supporting the regional activities. And then we're going to have a listing of what our upcoming webinars are going to be. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the challenge and the goal. And Jim Nelson from the Illinois Manufacturers Association is going to cover this section of our presentation today. So Jim, if you could tell me, what does that big 82% mean on the screen?
The 82% reflects the number of manufacturers in a recent survey who reported moderate to severe problems in obtaining skilled workers. We face a challenge because of a skills gap coming out of schools and because of the notion that manufacturing jobs are less than desirable. In Illinois alone, we have to replace some 30,000 production workers each and every year over the next 15 years statewide. That doesn't include the normal turnover rates. It doesn't include ebb and flow of the economy or anything else. This is just the retirement of the baby boom generation, and these are the men and women on the floor actually producing products. Manufacturing today requires greater skill sets than ever before simply because of our reliance on computerization, automated systems, and robotics. And deficits in our education have left too many without the basic skills that we need in manufacturing. Change the slide if you could.
I will. I want to ask you a question. I remember years ago there was a term called worker dearth. Is that what is referred to with that 30,000 boomers retiring?
Yes, there simply aren't enough workers to backfill all of those positions. And really, until the millennium generation comes into the workforce beginning in 2018 and 2020 specifically, we're actually going to have fewer workers available than there are open positions across the entire workforce.
That's just amazing to me. So let's talk about these pie charts that we've got. Can you tell me what the significance is of these?
Okay. I wanted to take a look at where the bulk of the jobs reside in manufacturing that we're looking to fill. In the smaller chart on the left-hand side, you can see that metal workers and plastic workers represent about a third of those 30,000 jobs, and those include machinists and welding occupations, metal stampers, metal fabricators, etc. Interestingly enough, food processors is a fairly significant sector, and it's a large sector in the state of Illinois as well. So basic manufacturing skills can go a long way to fulfilling those food processing worker openings, as well as specializations in NIMS credentials from the National Institute of Metalworking Skills and American Welding Society, of course, for welding. Other production occupations include a lot of process type of manufacturing in our refineries, in our grain processing plants that ADM, ConAgra, and others operate across the state. That larger circle, though, when we include the logistics portion of manufacturing, that is bringing raw materials to a plant and then taking finished products from the plant to either a distribution center, a warehouse, or direct delivery, all of that transportation, that distribution network, the logistics involved in moving product by rail, by river, by runways, by roads, or by round pipe, all of those have thousands of open occupational opportunities available over the next 15 years as well.
That's just an amazing graphic there where the transportation just almost encompasses the other part of the manufacturing process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
now, go ahead.
How can we build this on what we currently have established?
Well, the Manufacturing Education Initiative works off of a level of stackable credentials. And ATIM can really build on the Illinois Pathways scheme of stackable credentials because it really does help establish a local response to local needs and it assures job-ready candidates for local manufacturers. These are industry-driven credentials that we're talking about, and they're nationally portable. So even if one of the people that is trained through ATIM decides that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, employers nationally will know exactly what that person knows and the skills they bring to that workplace. Conversely, people who decide that Illinois is the greener pasture and train in Indiana, our employers will know the same thing. All of these are databased and supported so that those entities that are offering training there that is actually needed in that community. The Manufacturers Education Initiative is currently operating at 21 community colleges as part of the INAM network, which many of you have already heard of, and in some form in another 6 that are not part of the INAM network but are still offering the Manufacturers Education Initiative as well. We expect further expansion of that as we move forward. Now,
I have a poll question here I'd like the audience to answer. So if they could take just a moment to put what they think the credentials are that are included in MSSC. We like to keep the audience involved, Jim.
Absolutely. Smart group.
I think some people might have been looking at their slides. What do you think?
Hope so.
All right, we're going to give it just a couple more seconds on this polling question. All right. Going to take it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So, Jim, tell us about MSSC.
The Manufacturing Skills Standards Council has developed a number of credentials. The one that we are particularly looking at for the ATIM program is the Certified Production Technician, and specifically the safety credential. Safety will be part of that expanded bridge program, so that at a very minimum, everybody has safety training before they walk into a manufacturing situation. MSSC provides foundational skills regardless of what the product is being made, whether it's cupcakes or steel. What are the yellow lines on the floor for? What's a 5S notice? Why is it a really bad idea to wear flip-flops and Bermuda shorts in a welding booth? These are the basics. These are the basics that cut across all verticals of manufacturing and really help make someone job ready on day one with those very basic skills that are necessary. This really helps shrink an employer's training time so that an individual can become a productive member of that workforce much sooner. And the credentials, again, equal entry-level employment, employable.
That's great. That's great to know that. All right.
These are, go ahead. I'm sorry, I keep jumping. I do these so many times, I just keep rolling. This is a list of the current schools that have authorized MSSC instructors, and the ones that I have denoted here, a good number of them already have all of these have authorized instructors, and many of them will be in your ATIM regional partnerships. So even though procurement of training has not been completed, these schools do have authorized instructors already available and can be part of that procurement process, I'm sure, and I'm guessing Mike will go into a little more detail about that as we move along this afternoon.
Yeah.
We just finished a training class, so Lincoln Land Community College should be added in there, and I think Southwest, no, not Southwest, but Kaskaskia Community College will be added in there as well.
Can you tell me what TMA is, because I'm not familiar with that school?
TMA is actually an association. It's the Tooling and Manufacturing Association. They're located in Des Plaines, Illinois. They are the association that represents essentially about 1,000 machinist shops in the northeast area of Illinois. They have adopted MSSC, the Certified Production Technician curriculum, as one of their foundational elements that they're teaching as well.
Great, great. That's good to know. So we have the new model approach, and this is an area where we are going to be concentrating most of our efforts on today. I would like to pull down this poll question to find out if you know what the 4 areas of concentration are for the accelerated training in manufacturing. Mike Baker asked a question in the poll. Is anyone scrambling to find MSSC instructors? All right, we're going to be hiding down this poll in just a couple of seconds if you haven't taken the time to answer these. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Mike Baker from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. Tell us about manufacturing
All right.
in Illinois.
Thank you, Dee. This is akin to some of the information that Jim has shared with you already. Basically, it's commonly perceived by a lot of people that manufacturing is going away. They read about headlines in the newspaper, a particular plant is shutting down or a particular layoff is happening. But the reality is manufacturing is and will be a significant part of the state's economy for the foreseeable future. Manufacturing in Illinois has gotten more efficient. I mean, we do more work with fewer employees. Jim talked about that already. And the percent of output that we have in the world economy has remained pretty constant over the last 20 years or so. So, yeah, manufacturing has changed, but it's not going away. And we got to have people that have the right skills to fill the needs that employers have today. And part of that's an image problem, part of that's an outreach problem, and we hope to address some of those things in a small way through the ATIM initiative that we're all working on together here. I mean, in Illinois right now, there are almost 140 large employers in economic development we call large 500 or more. And altogether, there are almost 19,000 manufacturing employers in the state. So, I mean, they're in all corners of the state. They're doing all kinds of work. And the common denominator statewide is almost all of them are struggling to find workers with proper skills. So that's what we're all working on to try to address here.
I like the payroll statistic here that our growth rate in Illinois, and I believe that's from 2010, is much higher than the national average, and I think that bodes well for Illinois.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're trying in ATIM is, first and foremost, direct employer engagement. One of the common complaints from the private sector when the workforce system has sent people over for interviews is like, well, the people you sent me really weren't that good of a match. Or you haven't sent me enough people, or the people you're sending me, even though they might have the great soft skills, they don't have the technical wherewithal for us to be able to do anything with them. Part of that is their fault. In some cases, they haven't done a great job of telling us what it is exactly they need. Part of that's on our system. We haven't asked. We've kind of fallen into the pattern of, well, we'll find some people that look like they're a good fit and send them over. And I know that varies from area to area, but what we're trying to do under ATIM is to have everybody doing the same thing the same way in a very engaging process with the employers so that they tell us what their need is. We do the best we can to work outside the system that we're used to working, doing something new and innovative, doing training faster than we've ever done it before, doing accelerated client management faster than we've ever done it before. And at the end of the day, when people come out of training, they have a credential that is meaningful to an employer. So when they walk in the door, the employer looks at their portfolio and their resume and says, oh, you have an M certificate or you have an AWS certificate. I know right off the bat that you have the skill set I need. Now, I might still need to train you a little bit to do things exactly the way we do it here, but I know you have the foundation to work here and hit the ground running. So again, the key thing is that direct employer engagement to understand what their needs are, and if we can meet their needs, we will have no problem succeeding in what it is we're trying to do today. So that's those are the key things that we're trying to get done as we go forward here.
Great, great, great. So we don't want people pulling out their hair anywhere from employers or project people. So what do we need to do to make all of this work?
Okay, well, first of all, let's back up a second. In case you haven't heard the word, this initiative is part of an evaluative process, meaning that we have to have a treatment group and a control group, and we are going to compare what happens to the treatment group compared to what happens to the control group. Treatment and control will be compared long term. So after the training is complete, first of all, we're going to see, can we train these folks faster? From the time they walk in the door and say, yes, I'm signing up, to the time they go out the door into permanent employment, can we shrink that? That's one thing we're going to measure. And then we're going to measure how well they enter employment. Are there jobs waiting for them? Do they transition well into employment, and do they stay employed once they get there? And the idea is, in the ivory tower and on paper, if we can train people specifically in what employers in that region have said they need, our folks ought to be able to walk right in and get a job, because we're tailoring our training and tailoring our work for what the employers themselves have said they need. So, segueing right into the second point there, this is very much a demand-driven approach, a pull model, if you will, where the employers tell us what they need, and that sets up the demand or the pull. Okay, so we want to get as far away from train and pray as we can. Train and pray meaning, hey, I've got 20 slots, I'm going to train 20 welders and hope that as many of them as possible get jobs. Well, the problem is there might only be 2 openings for welders in the foreseeable future in that region, or make it bigger. You say if you have 100 slots available and there are 20 available positions over the next year, 80 of those people are going to really struggle to get a job. So you may have the capacity to do it, but if you have capacity in excess of what the demand is, it doesn't really matter, because you're overtraining for what the demand is. So we very much want to focus everything we're doing on what the employers and what the LMI data are telling us the demand is by region. And again, that's by region. There's going to be a different demand for a certain occupation in the Southwest region versus the Northern State Line region. Okay, we understand that. So that's why we're doing this on the regional level, because we can't take statewide demand. It's too big. But at the regional level, we ought to be able to train in right-sized numbers so that we are meeting the demand that the employers are telling us that is out there. The other key thing is lean management. I'm not sure how many of you have ever taken lean training or Six Sigma. The idea in that is that if you can eliminate the wasted or non-value added items in your process, you're going to save time and you're going to save money. So we want to apply that to our process as well. So we want to eliminate the downtime where clients come in, but then they're sitting around waiting for training to start. We're building in opportunities here, and you guys in your employer outreach, to build in opportunities either for job shadowing or work experience, internships, or on-the-job training, or some combination of all of those. And all of those can be taking place at the same time as people are either waiting for classroom training to start or while they're taking classroom training. The idea is that if we have downtime, we're going to lose people. If they come in and apply and say, great, your class starts in 6 weeks, we may never see them again. We got to find something for those folks to do that's value added for those 6 weeks or 4 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it is. And the best way to do that that's value added, get them into some kind of work-based learning opportunity where they get a feel for what manufacturing is about if they've never done manufacturing before. But also, and perhaps more importantly, an employer out there gets a chance to kind of test drive people and give them orders and see how they operate in an environment and see if they show up to work on time and to see what their general demeanor is. Chances are, if somebody has the skill set they need and they've had a chance to test drive them through these work-based learning opportunities, that person has an excellent chance of being hired permanently when their training is complete. And then the last thing again is, as I mentioned earlier, we're going toward industry-based competencies, meaning a credential or certificate that is nationally recognized and is portable. So if somebody takes training in Rockford but ends up moving to Decatur, the employers in Decatur understand what that certificate's about. You know, I know some of the training providers out there offer their own certificate. Well, that's really only meaningful in their immediate area. You know, places, you know, far away that don't understand their program or have never heard of their program, that certificate or credential is not very helpful. So in going toward nationally recognized credentials, industry-based competencies, you know, our folks ought to be able to go anywhere, and the employer can trust that they have the basic skill sets they need to walk in and hit the ground running.
That's a great tool, because being able to move from one place to the other makes everything that somebody is training for much more valuable.
Indeed. Okay. We've kind of spoken to this already, but the first point is just, it's so important to this. This will not work if we don't do these things. We got to get away from the thinking that one size fits all, that you can take 100 people, start them in the same class at the same time, and what ends up happening is instructors teach to the middle. Say you have a class of 20 people. You might have 4 people that know almost everything there is to know already in that class, and they just need the last 2 or 3 weeks of content. You may have 4 or 5 people that don't even know what a screwdriver is, but they've joined the class because they're making a career change. And then you've got the 80% in the middle that, for the most part, are in the middle of the road and know a little bit, but you know, they're not too far ahead or too far behind of the instructor. So what happens is the people at the top of the scale are bored to tears for nearly the entire amount of the class. The people at the bottom end are in over their heads almost immediately, and then the folks in the middle kind of do all right. What we want to do is structure the training so that the folks that are way ahead of the curve don't have to sit for 12 weeks to get 2 weeks worth of material. You know, the instructors have to find a way to get those folks what they need as soon as possible, and as soon as those people show the credential or show the competency through passing whatever test is required, they move up and on to the next level. So this is very much intended to be an individualized process where each individual person coming through, I mean each and every one coming through, gets their own plan. Okay? And their own plan takes several things into consideration, basically 3 key items. What's the employer demand in that region? What skill sets are they bringing to the table, which means, you know, what is their skill gap for those jobs? And then what is their ability to stay into training? Okay? Because in each person, you may want or be able to do any of those. Say you have jobs A, B, and C. They may be able to go 2 weeks of training and do job A. They might do 2 months of training to do job B. It might take 6 months of training to do job C. If their particular situation is such that they can't stay in training for 6 months, then that drives you to either A or B, you know, the shorter term training. If they have multiple incomes at home and maybe no kids or kids out of the house or whatever, have fewer expenses, cars paid for, that sort of thing, that individual can more than likely stay in a longer term training and be successful, because they're not going to have to bail out to earn money immediately. So the key is, you know, the employers need people right now. The individuals, the people coming in, most of them can't afford to be in 6-month or 1-year-long training. So what can we do to speed things up so that the people only take the pieces they need so that they can go out, show the competency, and get a permanent job? And you know, if we do that, we will have something that will be copied nationally, I guarantee you, because this is a common problem everywhere, and I think that we have a really good shot of doing something new and different here that will get national attention. And with the study involved, you know, we're going to have proof that we were able to do this, statistical proof. So I'm excited about this, and I hope you all are too, because we could really do something that makes a difference in how people get services going forward. Okay, that's the end of that one, Dee.
All right. Okay, so now what we're going to cover just really quickly is what the different ATIM occupations are. And you guys already answered the polling question, but here is what they actually are. And I apologize, the images aren't showing up here right now. Hopefully they are in your handout. But what we will have here is all of the applications that are going on with this program deal with these 4 areas of manufacturing jobs. And it's machine operator, mechatronics, welding, and then in some of the areas, logistics and inventory control. And Jim, would you be able to explain mechatronics real quickly for us?
Mechatronics is really the folks who service and keep the equipment up and running. These are folks who understand, looking at a machine, whether or not they have a software, hardware, mechanical, electrical, hydraulic issue that is causing the machine not to perform properly. It is something that is a growing area for expertise in manufacturing, and it's something that we are actually working on a national credential as we speak. NIMS is probably going to be the first entity out with a nationally portable credential, hopefully later this fall or after the first of the year. So it's a very important area. I've got member companies of the IMA who would love to hire a half a dozen service technicians themselves, and right now they're relying on the OEM service people.
And then, Jim, we have a question from the audience. Can you answer, where does robotics fall into this picture?
Robotics, in terms of machining or
in terms
robotics
of,
robotics are used in several different areas. They're used in logistical applications. They're used on assembly line applications. Machine operators can operate them, or people trained in mechatronics can service them, etc. Some robots do welding, and there are pieces of robotics just about in every curriculum there is.
So that could be a potential area down the road, just specifically robotics.
Sure.
All right. So also in our big picture here, what we're going to be doing with the website is we're going to have manufacturing information that everybody can see. And then we're going to be doing the online outreach and application for potential participants as well as for potential employers. We will have our ATIM guide for all of our regional partners. And then we'll also have some personal training and employment plans for the ATIM group who are going to actually be the participants in this group. So now let's talk a little bit about what the regional activities are. And I'm going to call on Mike a little bit for some help in this, and Natasha if she's available. And first and foremost, I want to show you the map of where the areas are. We have 5 areas that we're going to be concentrating all of these efforts on. And I want to pull over a map that shows you on the website where all of the pin locations are for the different sites. And what we need for you all to do is, if you have any corrections to any of these pin locations, we need you to send that information to info@illinoisworknet.com, because we want to make sure that all of the logistical information for all of these points on the map are all correct. Phone numbers, addresses, who they need to contact, any of the information that is on there that we need to have on the map so that participants can make sure that they see all of this information right when they need to make a decision about whether or not they're going to participate or not. We're going to pull this back over and bring it out again later. And so moving on in our presentation, our activities include a few different things. We need to be able to establish accounts for the partnerships. We need to be able to engage the community. That means outreach, recruiting applicants and employers. We need to be able to determine eligibility, and once we've determined eligibility, then we need to determine whether or not someone is suitable. And our next webinar next week is actually going to be on how suitable your participants are actually going to be. And then we want to be able to enroll participants, and they're going to be set up for random selection in the treatment group. And then veterans have a priority of service. And then we want to be able to work on finding jobs. And our employers are going to be working on the forecasting aspect of this, and then making sure that we're working with the right people to have the job postings listed properly. To make sure that everybody's trained properly, we're going to develop individual training plans so that each person is going to have their own training plan. So somebody might need something more than somebody else, or they might not need as much as. And then we've got a dashboard so that all of the partners can manage the program, and then we're going to monitor the health of the program by making sure that our reports keep us in line with the project and fostering the partnerships that we've already established through the course of this study. And then we need to make sure that the team is functioning as a team so that we have the tools to make sure that everybody's working together properly. First and foremost, the employers need to be a big part of this. And from there, we need to incorporate our adult education partners, any of the community-based organizations that might be able to help us with any transitional services. And then we need to work on economic development as well. Economic development helps areas grow and prosper and bring in more jobs so that our trainees will have more opportunities. Post-secondary training is important, as well as the local workforce investment area, and last but not least, our project managers.
Yeah,
So,
Dee, if I could jump in.
Yes.
If you could go back to that slide.
Sure.
The idea here is that each of these types of organizations have some relationships already set up, either to have access to people that might be suitable clients, or they have access to employers that might need skilled workers. So the idea is that, many hands make light work, right? So if you can leverage all of these existing relationships that are out there, you may not have a relationship with a certain employer that's a manufacturer in your area, but they're probably a member of the local chamber. Or if they're not a member of the chamber, they might be a member of the local economic development group, or at least the local economic development office has a relationship with them. So again, you see that you're not making cold calls on employers. Leverage those relationships that you already have with the people that know those folks, so that you can help bring those employers into the fold. And I know some areas are have a lot of people on the employer side lined up. Others are still kind of seeking out and trying to add more. So don't forget those organizations that are already out there that employers belong to, because believe it or not, despite all of the social media and the advertising and the events that we hold and all that stuff, word of mouth still speaks volumes. And if you've got an employer that you've had a relationship with, ask that employer also to reach out to the people he knows or she knows, because that will get more people at your door than almost anything else that you can do, and that's free.
Right.
Food for thought.
That's right. So Illinois WorkNet is going to help this process be successful. And one of the things that we need to do is, first and foremost, the employers are the key driver to this because they're going to determine what the demand is. Then we need to get customers, our customers, to fill out the application so that we know what our pool of people is for this study. Then the LWIA is going to determine WIA eligibility. The regional team is going to determine suitability. And then the LWIA and the project manager will identify the treatment group or perform the random assignment. And then the regional team will develop the personal training and employment plans. The regional team will handle managing the plan. The employers will continue to post updates and job postings. And then the regional team will place a treatment group with the employers. So that's the work-based learning that they will have going on. Then the regional team will monitor any progress of that personal training and the employment plans of the treatment group. Then we have job placement. And then last but not least, we have evaluation of the program as it goes along. So, Mike, would you like to add anything to this flowchart?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Natasha is uploading a document now that I want to address Cindy's question from earlier, and this is probably the best place to do it. Cindy asked earlier, basically everyone that completes one of the ATIM training programs needs to take the MSSC training also. Okay. So here we go. That is not it. Did I email you the wrong one? No? Hey, Chelsea, I'm trying it again.
Okay, so can we come back to that, Mike?
Yeah, I just also want to point out that that box on the lower left side says regional team place treatment group with participants, with employers and work-based learning. You know, this is also where the classroom training comes into play as well. I mean, the classroom training and work-based learning can be done sequentially. They can be done at the same time. It just depends on the individual skill gap and the placement opportunities that are available. So this does highlight that we can't just engage employers for job postings. We also have to engage them for placement opportunities for work-based learning, work experience, OJT, and internships. So the idea is that as people are going through their training, we want this work-based learning folded in with it. So you've got to manage and find out from your employers regularly when they can take somebody and how long they can take them for, and what particular area or occupation would be involved in that. Okay, can everybody see this big white flow chart in the middle? Okay, this is the client flow, a little bit different way of looking at it from the way that Dee has laid it out. But essentially, this is the same process. Okay, people are going to come in, and we're going to determine their eligibility and their aptitude. Then they're going to be randomly assigned. Then they go into the treatment group. Okay, the first yellow box is expanded bridge. Every single person that comes into the program in the treatment group will go through this, and every single person, as part of that, they will get an assessment of, you know, what their skill sets are specifically. They will get the MSSC level 1 training, which is safe. Level 1 is a misnomer. It's the MSSC safety training. And then they will also get their personalized plan completed. So this first yellow box that says phase 1, that's the plan, that's the assessment and career development in MSSC. Now, everybody gets MSSC safety. People can get the additional elements also if they wish, and that could be done after the fact while they're in skill training, or it could be done concurrently with it. For those folks that test out high enough in reading and math and can go straight into skill training, that's the blue arrow that bypasses down to the white box. For those folks that need traditional bridge programming to get their reading and math up, like a refresher course, because employers need people at 9th and 10th grade math and reading. Okay? If we don't have people at that level, no matter what certificate they have or what training we put them through, they're going to have a hard time getting employed if they can't read at that level. In fact, they're going to have a hard time even earning their certificate. Okay? So as you guys are looking at people's suitability, you need to find folks that are as high as possible on the reading and math scale. Now, 6th grade is the absolute floor. Okay? Anybody that doesn't test at least that high in reading and math cannot come into the program. But even the folks that are 6th grade or 7th grade level on both those things, they're really going to struggle and probably spend a lot of time in a bridge program before they can enter training. Okay? So even those folks, even though technically they may be over the minimum standard, even the folks that are 7th grade reading and math, or in some cases 8th grade reading and math, are less suitable for the program than people that can test out higher than that. So I want to be perfectly clear with everybody. Don't load up on people that are walking through the door if they're all at 6th or 7th grade reading level, because that might help you hit your enrollment target, but what's going to happen is those folks are going to get stuck in a bridge program and maybe never even enter advanced skill training. Someone once mentioned to me not too long ago, well, traditionally the training program in their area let people in with an 8th grade level. Well, that's good for them. The problem with that is employers don't take people that read at 8th grade level. So that's been part of the problem. People go into training programs that don't read or do math at a high enough level. So when they come out of the training program, they're really not prepared to go to work. So that's why the employers call us back and say, well, this person came out of training, but they don't really work for us. And that's why those people don't have positive exits and hang around in the program. So you've really got to make sure that you target folks that read and write and can do math at the highest level possible for the folks that are coming in the door. So,
right.
Cindy, does that answer your question?
And we're going to cover all of the suitability items next week on the 5th on our webinar, so that we can make sure that you all understand suitability and how you can make the best choices.
Does anyone have any questions on either the flow chart that's up now or the flow chart that Dee spoke to a minute ago? Because if you're not sure how that works, we've got to fix that, because you will go down the tracks the wrong way. So we can cover the questions now, or if you really feel like you need to spend a lot of time learning more about it, I would be happy to talk with anybody offline after the webinar and get you up to speed.
Mike did ask a question, why isn't the minimum grade level changed to 9th grade?
No, the minimum grade level has not changed. The minimum grade level for somebody to get employment has been 9th and 10th grade. Okay? That has been the goal all along. The floor was set at 6th grade just to have an arbitrary point to say somebody that comes in at that level or below that level is not going to have a good chance of success. You have some folks that come in and they might read at an 11th grade level but do math at 7th or 8th grade. That's very common, actually. Heck, I've got a master's degree. I might struggle to hit 9th grade or 10th grade math without a refresher. The idea is that if you get somebody that kind of has that situation, you can get them into a short-term bridge program, give them a week or two to brush up on their math skills. They can take that tape test again and be just fine. Okay? So while the absolute floor is 6th grade, the reality is you need to aim higher than that, because the gap is just too wide for most people to close. But if you've got somebody that has a really high reading score but a lower math, or vice versa, that person, may be worth taking a shot at. But again, you have to look at what else they bring to the table and what the demand is in your region. It's very much an individualized look at that individual and see what they bring to the table and what is that person's chance for success under our program model. So if you have any doubts, if you think that this person just really, there's no way they're going to cut it, they're not suitable, bottom line. So, don't get hung up on well, we said they can come in if they're 6th grade. Ask yourself, can this person cut it, and can this person make it and get out and get a job? And if they aren't at 10th grade reading and math, they're not probably going to get a job. Very likely not going to get a job. So you got to ask yourself, how long is it going to take this person to get to that level?
Great. Thanks, Mike. We're going to move along so that we can be mindful of everybody's time. Now, our big picture, we're going to do everything that we can to make this as integrated as possible so that you can get on Illinois WorkNet and find the information that the LWIA people are putting in IWDS, because not everybody has access to IWDS. Only the LWIA people have that access. So WorkNet is going to provide the link between the systems so that all regional partners will be able to keep on top of each of the participants' files. View them or comment on them or do whatever they need to do to make sure that everybody is up to speed on what that particular participant is doing. And now, what are we going to do to be able to measure success? So we have this polling question here. How can we measure success? Okay, we've got people feverishly answering the polling question.
I'm really loving that 100% said meeting employer demand.
Yes, that's great. I guess we got that point across earlier, huh?
Oh, who backed off? We're at 97%.
Maybe somebody just did it to upset the apple cart.
It's probably Nelson.
I haven't answered a single one of these yet, but if you want me to, there you go.
Go for it.
Well, for the 2.7% out of you that think meeting employer demand is not going to be a measure of success, look at the webinar again.
All right, we're going to give it 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much for your answers. So one of the things that we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to measure participants' outcomes against the individuals who do not receive the accelerated training services, because we'll have a program group, which is the treatment group, who have been randomly assigned, and then we'll have a comparison group, who is the control group. And we'll be measuring the outcomes that include employment, earnings, educational attainment, and the time that it takes to accomplish all of this. So basically, this evaluation will examine the impact of ATIM services on program participants' education and employment outcomes by comparing their outcomes with those of the individuals who were eligible for but did not receive the ATIM services. The goal of the whole study is to be able to accelerate the process whenever possible. So next, what we want to do is show you some online tools that are going to help you support the regional activities.
Hey, Dee, this is Mike. Can we go back? I need to clarify educational attainment real briefly.
Okay.
That does not mean getting a degree. Educational attainment means can we increase them? If they came in at a lower level, can a bridge program increase their reading and math levels? Much of this stuff, if it's done at a community college or if it ends up being done there, will be on the non-credit side of the house. Now, there is one region that is doing a 4-credit model, which is fine, but that's kind of limited to that region. For most areas, if you use a community college, they're going to be doing non-credit coursework. At the end of the day, this is not about effort, it's about getting people jobs, okay? So while all these things will be measured, What we're really going to look for is who got employed and did these folks do better. And I don't want people to get sidetracked on the educational attainment, meaning thinking that that's earning any kind of degree. It's earning credentials and industry recognized competencies that manufacturers recognize that will get them the job. We're not worried about getting degrees here.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, so we showed you a bit earlier about our Discover Manufacturing site, and we're starting with the ATIM program. And so then what we can do is, as we're building our website, we will build the manufacturing aspect. And if you take a peek on the left-hand side, that's what Illinois WorkNet is going to look like. And you can see what our Discover Manufacturing page is going to look like. And as we move forward here, we have our actual ATIM program screenshots. We have some of those that are going to expand regionally, provide an outreach page, provide a guide for our partners, and it will give you the ability to log in to the ATIM facilitation tools. And if you have not been there already, the website is at the bottom of this screen. And on our guide for our partners, we have graphics available, we have our webinar schedule, we have our archive that we've started with the webinars that we've done, we have all of the tools to help you get started, to find participants, find information about training and career plans, work experience. We also have downloads and FAQs. And to access the ATIM guide, if you go to the bottom of the page where it says right there, you will see partners and then the ATIM guide. So that will get you to this page. Or you can log on to this web address right here that says Illinois WorkNet Manufacturing, or ilworknetmanufacturing.com ATIM guide. Then we have our page for our outreach page. And we have a page on the ATIM page that has about the program itself, and it has all of the different components here. And it will give you some outreach material for potential participants as well as for potential employers. It has a map of the regions, and it has access to the online application. And what I want to do now is I want to bring our the screenshot back over so that we can drive around the website just a little bit so that you can see live what's going on. So this is our ATIM website. It has information here that you can learn about ATIM, which is the one slide that you just saw with the About Us page. You can see all of the participating regions, and I want to stress again the fact that we need to make sure that we have all of the proper information, and if you need to send that out, we need it to go to info@illinoisworknet.com, and if one of the ladies would be so kind to put that link back in the chat pod. Also, we need to know who all of the partners are so that we can give you the proper access to find the files, to find out where the people are that have applied for the program so that we can get you the right applicants to access for your programs. And then we can apply for ATIM. We can find out information about becoming an ATIM employer, any news and updates that are going on. And as we do these webinars and get questions from various people from across the state, we will add them to the frequently asked questions so that when something comes up, we get the answer from the person that can give us the right answer. We add that question and the information to the screen. So then, again, you can apply for ATIM by going to the main page and clicking on the Apply. You it does give you some basic information requirements as to what you will need to be able to make the application. If you want to see information about becoming an ATIM employer, we have that information on the website as well, and getting answers, and again, the regional map. Sorry, the internet's going a little bit slow here. And then if you hover over one of the sites and click on it, it gives you the information of what is going on at that site, which programs they're going to be offering, and what the address is for that information. And then, again, at the very bottom of the screen, under Partners, we have the ATIM Guide, where you will be able to access the information that you need as a workforce partner in this program. If you need to get started, participants information, this is where you would find applications once someone from your area has put that up on their application. And just to let you know, all applications do need to be filled out online. So that is the one tool. They can do it from your Career Resource Center if you happen to be in a one-stop, or you can direct them to the online application. So I'm going to reduce this screen here and move it over. And last but not least, we have our upcoming webinars. We have a technical assistance webinar scheduled for September 4th. That will be an open question and answer. Along the way, if we have any updates to the website or to the process available, we will also be scheduling those. We will try to incorporate those into the technical assistance webinars as we can. We will be talking about suitability on September 5th. We will be talking about managing employer partnerships on the 10th, career plans on the 11th, creating a personalized training plan on the 12th. We'll have another technical assistance session on the 17th, as well as we'll be talking about classroom training and national certifications on the 17th as well. And then we'll finish up with follow-up and reporting on September 18th. Now, if you don't need to wait for the webinar, you can be moving. You do not have to wait for the webinar to be able to perform the particular part. We just wanted to have some training up so that we can get this going very, very carefully and very wonderfully for all of our partners. So if we have any other questions from the audience for Mike or Jim, please type those into the chat pod. We will answer them as we can. If you have any other questions, please type them as in the chat pod. And somebody is typing. If you can mute your phone for me for just a moment. And Chelsea did put in the registration for the webinars.
Oh, also a word of caution for those of you who added the webinars to your calendar. When I added mine to my calendar, it gave me one giant event over the whole period rather than individual ones. So if you add it to your calendar, you may want to double check to make sure you have the dates and times specifically added. Otherwise, you may miss a webinar.
And again, if you have not provided Chelsea and Natasha a list of the people who need access, we need you to do that. You can send that information to them at info@illinoisworknet.com. And we have a question from the audience. If someone completes the ATIM application online, will it be emailed to us if they live in our region? Natasha or Mike, do you have an answer on that?
My understanding is that the site the individual selects will get a notification that an application is there, and when you log in, you should be able to see it. So there shouldn't be emailing of documents. You should just get a notification that it's out there. So Natasha, is that another way of saying what you just typed, Natasha?
Yeah, I think so. Natasha just said you will get a notification that the application has been put into your customer group. Now, hopefully they know which location to pick, but based on somebody's zip code, those training locations will propagate at the top of the list. So hopefully they recognize which training location that they will be
They actually go in by region. So each ATIM, this is Natasha, each ATIM intake location is associated with a specific region. And so there will be, a group for each of those regions. And it's really important that we know which partners are going to be our ATIM partners so that we can give you the proper access to the ATIM tools. We need to know which regions. There are some local workforce investment areas that are, cover multiple regions. So it's really important that if you have a workforce partner that needs to have access to multiple regions, you need to let us know that so that we can give give people the proper access.
Great. And then, Natasha, do we have an ETA on the customer group access?
Yeah. Yes. We're currently working on that right now. So we'll definitely send out a notice as soon as it's available.
And same on the dashboard.
Right. All right.
Also, it will require a little bit of cooperation among people within a region and outside of regions. You may have folks that don't live in the ATIM region that find out about it that may apply. That's okay. If you feel like they are close enough to your system, that by all means, if they live out in another county outside of an ATIM region, you can have them in. Don't worry about that at all. Also, you may get somebody that, say, lives in Rockford but applied in Decatur. Well, maybe they meant to do that because they have family in Decatur and that they want to move anyway. Maybe they hit the wrong place. So you have to follow up with them. Don't just assume what's going on and figure it out. And then, once you have that contact with the client, you'll be able to figure out what their intentions were.
Okay, we are going to cover all of the suitability functions next week on the 5th, but what I would like Mike to address very briefly, because we are over time, is veterans.
Yes. Okay. Veterans under WIA receive priority of service. So if a veteran applies and is deemed suitable, that's the key. If they're deemed suitable, they automatically go into the treatment group. They bypass the random assignment. So what that means is if you get a bunch of veterans that are suitable to go in, that's going to throw off the evaluation unless you correct that by enrolling a bunch of people, a similar number of people that are not veterans. So definitely do not market or do direct outreach targeted to bringing veterans into this initiative. Okay, if veterans find out about it and want to apply, that's great, but they won't be included in the evaluation, and if you get too lopsided, it's going to throw it off. Okay, the good news is though, veterans do count toward your enrollment target. So if your target is 200, you got 10 veterans, well, they count toward that. But again, depending on the size of your population, you get too many of them, it's going to mess up the the evaluation. So the state evaluator, SPR, will also, and Debbie is typing an item there, you know, if we see it getting lopsided, we may have to come back to you and ask you to take corrective action and enroll more people that are non-veterans. So I hope everyone's clear on that. It's fine for them to come in, but don't go out and try to lure them in, because that's going to create problems for you later.
And we will clarify this, as I said, again, on September 5th at our suitability webinar. So if we have no other questions, we would like to thank you for joining us today. This webinar will be posted on Illinois WorkNet ilworknetmanufacturing.com within the guide, as well as on YouTube. And if you aren't already a part of our LinkedIn group for our Illinois Virtual Job Club, you may want to consider joining that group. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I'd like to thank Jim Nelson from the Illinois Manufacturers Association, as well as Mike Baker from the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities, and Chelsea, Natasha, and